You're listening to Beyond the 9 to 5, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs to push for more, passionately fulfill their dreams, and own your life. My name is Brenda Leopold, the Chief Visionary and founder of World Headquarters, the next evolution in co-working spaces. On this show, I sit down with entrepreneurs to hear their stories, share insights, and look behind the scenes of becoming an entrepreneur. This is Beyond the 9 to 5. All right, well, welcome. Today's guest on the show is Brandon Spain with Volt Media, correct?
Correct.
All right, well, let's start with telling the people who you are and what you do.
Well, like you said, my name is Brandon. Our company is kind of different than most digital marketing agencies. We focus on helping brands create revenue in a connected world, and what that is in a 2019 world, our big focus right now is content, because if you're not putting content online as a business, you're non-existent to 90% of consumers. Most people sub the age of 35 spend 6+ hours a day on social media across Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and if you're a business that's not on those platforms, you're non-existent to those consumers. And so we really focus on helping businesses that have been established for 10, 15 years help transition to modern marketing methods instead of the traditional radio, TV, which you just see is overpriced. I think that they're good platforms, but for the price they're at, they're not worth it for a business owner.
Sure. So when you're doing that, like, what do you think is kind of like what is your biggest capability when it comes to how you can make a difference and how you can make that change?
I think part of it is, instead of coming from an aspect of when you hire a production company, you tell them the video you want and then they create it. We break down and work with our clients to create a strategy and objective, and then reverse engineer a way to get there. So whether that be if you're in the B2B world, understanding what a LinkedIn content marketing strategy is, and then understanding that if recruiting, even though sales would be nice, but recruiting and candidates is like your hugest issue, you can solve that through content marketing, through internal culture, and then finding how we're going to portray that, instead of just delivering a pretty picture or an awesome video and then 6 months later having businesses be like, where's the ROI? This is awesome, but it doesn't relate or align with any of our marketing goals. So I think that's where we differentiate, and our ability of, we have in-house staff that create video, photography, graphic design, branding, so that way you're not trying to manage, as a business, multiple different aspects of a marketing campaign. And it's normally more cost effective than having to hire them each individually.
Sure. Well, I'm sure there's just less opportunities for drop balls, for sure.
Yeah.
I thought that would be my experience today.
Yeah. I tend to notice that we like to say that to business owners that still even go, well, you guys are pricey. I'm like, well, and absolutely, I can refer you to freelancers. And, if there's deadlines missed and you're not getting the thing that you asked for, that's something that you deal with freelancers, because they have to be available. And a lot of times when you have a high demanded freelancer that does do things for a great cost and does great work, they're normally not available in the time frame you need it.
Right. So. Yeah, for sure. And then you forget that you now are back in the management role.
Yeah.
Whether they're freelancers or employees, you're managing
to you, like,
them,
what is, as a business owner, when you're not spending time on your business, what is that worth to you?
Right.
To me, it's worth a lot. If I have to spend time finding someone to do the project, then making sure they do it right and managing them, compared to that couple $100 more to, like, just have it done right and just tell people what you want and it gets done in the way you want it.
Yep. Nice. So curious to know, what exactly got you here? Like, how did you end up as a business owner in digital media? Like, how did that happen?
It's not as interesting a story as a lot of people would think. I was going to school for computer science. I was doing programming, and I was working as a bartender for private events at a restaurant. And a lot of the events I worked were in the off season, when non-wedding season. Wedding season, obviously those 3 months all you work is weddings. But in the winter months, you worked a lot of networking events that were hosted there.
Oh, sure.
You worked I worked the CEO cabinet for Theta Care. And so just like they say, servers and bartenders, you just you talk shop to talk shop because you want to make tips.
Yeah.
Little did I realize I was networking. I had no idea what that was, but I was networking with all these executives and business owners and just soaking up their IP and like what made them decide to do it. And an opportunity fell in my lap where I had a business owner that was paying to be on radio, and then advertising a free dinner. And from that free dinner, he would advertise a free consultation. And it cost him, I gave him his bill. It wasn't cheap. And I was like, this doesn't seem very cost effective. And he goes, well, as a chiropractor, the first year I normally make $1,000 off a patient. I break even in that first year because they normally stick with me for life. This is just what I know that works.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I know a little bit about social media. I mean, our restaurant that I work for use it. I was like, have you thought about just running ads or setting up like a video campaign? He's like, I did, and I got burned. I paid, this young guy some money and he did nothing and he kind of ghosted me. And so now I have a bad taste in my mouth. And I was like, what you paid sounds like a lot to me. I don't know nothing about it, but I'm sure you could find some college kid and pay him $500 a month and just have him manage your page and run ads for you on your ad spend. He goes, okay, you're hired. And I was like, wow. I was like, that seemed really, really easy. And then obviously some things fell through. He hired a company to do some billboards and some like TV and stuff, and they just covered some digital media in there because that was something that he had requested of it. And it got me thinking, like my brain turning, and I started Googling and YouTubing and just like learning as much as I could. And I reached out to 6 business owners that I had met, and like whether they're family, friends, people I had met through the networking that I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if you're paying for social media, and if you're not even doing anything, I would love to manage your pages, and so I can understand the business pages aspect for free for 6 months. And all of them said yes because they're like free labor. Most of I think one of them was paying someone.
Why didn't you call me? Come on.
Yeah, was paying someone to do it, and it was just someone internally, like their front desk was like posting once a day.
Right. Yeah.
And so I did that for 6 months, and I turned around and I was like, "Here's the results. Yeah. What would you be willing to pay for this?" And I told myself, no matter what they say, I will say yes to that number. It could be $10, could be $50, could be $1,000. The average price was $250, was what it kind of came out to.
Okay.
So I had my first 6 paying clients at $250, and I was like, wow, I can do this full time. And I had a kid at the time and another kid on the way, and I was like, I'm going to take this leap because now is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Because before, they're both born and they're both here, and I'm in a full-time swing of being a dad and have all these commitments where I can't. And so it paid off because I was charging $250 until I had my first circle back to the chiropractor client, and I understood the cost and the value of a patient for a year. And I was like, okay, if it costs them, they get $1,000 for a year. If I can get 10 patients a month, that's $10,000 in revenue for a chiropractor. In a year, I was like, I can charge more than $250. So we did it for 3 months. It was transformative for them. It was the best results I've ever had in a marketing campaign of that type. And I was like, okay, I think we should step it up on the marketing. They're like, absolutely. And I was like, here's some new packages. And so I made 3 packages, and I started at a really high number to price anchor it, and then it broke down to lower ones. And so I think the highest was like 2,500, and there was like 1,000, and then there was like a 500, and we were at 250. And I didn't even get a chance to get to the 15 or the 500 because they're like, 2,500, we'll do it. That's good to us. They didn't know that there was cheaper options. And they're like, because them, that was worth it. They were doing amazing if they could up their results. So we managed 10 to 15 new patients for 3 months and like filled their client list.
Nice.
Like for a single chiropractor. And to them, they're like, well, I just made 6 figures this year and spent $7,500 total.
Right.
Like, and then I was like, that's where I need to be in the game, where I can go, what is the value to you? And I'm going to accommodate for risk. So if you want to make $1 million, I'll charge you 10% of $1 million because that accommodates for the risk. Because if we don't make $1 million, we didn't charge you $1 million. But if I could guarantee $1 million, I would charge you $1 million.
Yeah, right.
So
exactly. Yeah. No.
That's how my brain works and why I got into it and why I'm so passionate
well,
about
and
it.
I think that is honestly capturing one of the biggest problems that exists in creative freelance. Like, the individuals that are out that are freelancing underprice their services because they don't understand that that's the perspective they should have on it. It's not necessarily like, what is the value of your time? Not necessarily what is the value of you as a person. Like, stop looking at it from that perspective and take that look at, like, what can you do for them? What are you willing to guarantee? Like, I'm not going to spend, $100,000 on a car that's going to not be guaranteed to run for a year, right? Mm-hmm. Like, but if you can say, I will guarantee you X result. Mm-hmm. That's the value you're paying for, and that's what you're telling people, and that's what you're using in your business to differentiate yourself.
Yeah. To me, everyone goes like revenue for businesses, and like businesses don't want the highest ROI. They want the least amount of risk. Business owners don't like risk. If you can remove risk from the situation, people become a lot more likely to open their checkbooks.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is, I realize obviously with like entrepreneurship and sales is like risk is a trust as well, like getting a business owner to trust you, which is why for the longest time we only ran 3-month minimum contracts and then month to month after that. Sure. Because it creates that trust of like, this isn't a year-long commitment. This is like, give us 3 months to get a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And that eased for business owners because then they're like, I know what the fixed cost is for 3 months. I can handle that. And if the results are what you say that they could be, because I never guarantee anything. Because with marketing, it's kind of like baseball. You miss 9 times out of 10, but when you hit that 10th, that's a grand slam. It's a home run. It does more than sales can do. But can you survive those misses?
Right.
So,
right.
Which is another reason we've transitioned from solopreneurs and small businesses with 1 to 2 employees to working with bigger companies is because it's really hard to see people that don't have an established sales funnel already invest in marketing because it can drain them.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think to circle back to the risk, though, I think that's interesting because there is a need to be risk tolerant to be an entrepreneur, because you would have never made that leap and said, I'm going to do this now with like 2 little kids at home.
No.
Anybody else would have been like, are you freaking crazy? That is not the time to do it. But I think what you're capturing is like that innate ability as an entrepreneur or business owner to identify worthy risk, educated guesses.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's the difference.
Like the thing is, for a business owner, the thought of and that's like obviously where the pricing comes in is a great example is, so like let's say we were to work with a company for $1,500 a month. That's a minimum wage employee, maybe.
Yeah.
And to them, to hire a qualified sales position to give their guaranteed results, where they're going to call 180 businesses and close 2 deals a day by calling 180 people. They would be paying $15+ an hour because that's a hard pressed job.
Right.
So they're going to pay double what they're going to pay us. So we're going to say we can do more potentially than they can do for your business over a 6-month window, but we can't guarantee it. So we'll charge you half. To a business owner, it opens up the eyes that like, oh my God, like maybe this isn't as scary as it needs to be if you have the right partner.
Right.
And like I like to call us like a boutique agency, because when you work with us, you have a direct bat phone to me. You work with a partner. We don't deliver deliverables. We create partnerships and execute on goals that you set.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing, and that's obviously why I'm a fan.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what's your 5-year vision? Where do you hope to be in 5 years on the business?
See, I was talking to Zach about this, who's helping record the podcast today. He's my first ever employee, and the thing was, service businesses are very hard to scale because you're selling time. So like no matter what, if you look at the biggest players in the game, like VaynerMedia, like the biggest agency that does in the realm of what we do, they do 100-200 million a year, and they're out in New York, and they do Toyota and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that's not a huge number, 100-200 million. Yes, relative to like small businesses,
right,
yes,
right.
but in grand scheme of things, saying this is the cap for like the best of the best makes this. Our goal is to build a marketing machine that we can put any business through and have quantifiable results. So if we had a business that's doing 10 million and wants to get to the 40 million mark, we can put them through and say a 4x return through our marketing machine and our tools is possible, in charging $1 million for that. And then our goal is to get it up to that. And eventually for me, in the next 5-year window, I want to start taking on venture capitalist ability through taking equity instead of charging a business.
Yeah.
And obviously that would be based on vetting like who it is. Do I believe that, like, do I think they're me? Where I tell Zach, we could have the worst month of the year. I could go 6 months without making a dime, but I'll go get a job to pay both of our bills so that we can continue to do it, because he knows that no matter what, he will get paid, or I will make sure that I will do nothing else but make sure that he gets his.
Right.
And so if I can find an entrepreneur that has the vision and the drive like that, and they don't have the revenue to invest in marketing, but it'd be transformable for them, have the proof of a concept, the team, everybody to put it through. Right. And if that blows up to a $2-3 million business, I have $150,000 in equity in a business that I would have only made 20.
Right. Exactly.
So that's the 5-year goal is to be the go-to to transform businesses.
Very cool.
So
very cool. So as also a dad, and I know you have a significant other.
Yes.
So with that whole thing, is there things that have changed in your life, either on the personal side or even just on your own personal development side, that with you as an individual, as being a business owner, that you maybe didn't see coming?
I have to say I got very lucky in like the way that I'm built. The way my brain works is a lot of people, and I'm very empathetical to it, that you need dad time and you need work time and you need to turn on and off and like make sure that you're checked out when you're at home and that you're not thinking about work to spend time with the kids. I can be spending the day with my kids and be checking my phone with work and not lose distraction of either. Sure. I'm very lucky in the fact that my children are young enough that, I mean, playing is play. There's not like it's not, you need to be helping them with homework and be present in every aspect of it. But I've definitely noticed that I look at my kids in the same drive. There's 2 things that I cannot fail at, and that's being a dad and a business owner. And so I look at my kids with the drive of I will do whatever to make sure that I'm a great dad.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way that I look at my businesses, I'll do whatever. And that's why I have days where Monday and Friday I'm out of the office by 10:30, 11 normally, but Tuesdays and Thursdays, because then I set my administrative tasks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here till 1 a.m. sometimes,
Right.
because that allows me to have Mondays and Fridays I can be home for dinner for sure,
Yeah.
and take them and have daddy day.
Right.
And obviously that'll flex to weekends.
Yeah.
But right now we have shoots that we do on weekends. I have other obligations that I take care of then.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just understanding that family comes first. I'll never sacrifice family for business, but I don't think that it has to be one or the other. I think if you have the right drive and the motivation, and there may be 4 hours. You're a parent. We have kids that sleep through the night.
Yeah.
So we take that, instead of me getting 4 hours of sleep because my kids cry, I get 4 hours of sleep because I wake up before they're up and work in the quiet.
Right.
Or I stay when they're asleep. I come back. There's been days where I put the kid in the crib at 8:30. Our other daughter goes down with my other half, and I'm back at the office at 9 p.m. till 4 o'clock in the morning so that I can get extra stuff done.
Yeah, right.
So.
Well, and it's and that's what one of the things that I always said too is I think that work-life balance, it's a commitment. It's just a commitment. It's not a skill that you have to learn. It's not something you do right or wrong. It's just a commitment you make to create that balance, whatever that is for you. But I also think it's about the people you surround yourself with too, right? Like that you're in the right place at the right time with the right people. And I personally have elected to work with you in your company because I appreciate what you bring to the table. And I think you are part of my work-life balance. Like if I can hand off something fully and know that it's totally accounted for and I don't have to worry about it, that it gives me that ability to shut off at night. So I think it is, it's kind of all of that. And, but I think that's just so with that, I guess the other thing I would like to ask you before we wrap up is, what advice do you have to share if there's somebody out there thinking about this and thinking about becoming a business owner or doing the side gig thing and getting it off the ground? What do you got to say to them?
For anyone that's looking to step into the world of entrepreneurship, obviously the first thing is just do it. I mean, you're going to waste a lot of the time that you'd be putting into building that business thinking about it. Sitting there on YouTube and Google and searching how-tos and reading more articles. That amount of time could be spent networking and DMing businesses to get your first client. Yeah. My big thing is don't dive in, but don't give up your lifeline until you can transition. So I bartended. I could close events from, I would go in 3 p.m., which is like the end of a work day, and I could close a bar for an event at 1 p.m. and make full-time living doing that 4 or 5 days a week and making sure it's on the weekend days so that I could work on my hustle during the weekdays. Yep. And it's as I transition to where your hustle is making more than your part-time, or you're missing out on revenue because of your part-time, transition out of your part-time full-time into your business. Yep. I don't think it's smart unless you have venture capital or you're a teenage guy or a 20-year-old living with his parents and really doesn't have any bills. Yep. I think it's smart to, it's going to be hard. Yeah. Well, and it's hard work.
Not being properly funded on the front end is always the problem. Always,
and it's bootstrapping it. Yeah. I mean, if you have the will and the drive, you can make it work. But I've never heard of any of the most successful people in the world, from Steve Jobs, anyone like that. You've never heard them say success was easy. Yeah, it's hard work, and it's not. And I hate when people say work smarter, so you don't have to work as hard. Yeah. Well, if you can work smarter, that just means you have more time to work harder. So if you can do 2 things in an hour, that means that you have, instead of 2 hours, you now have an extra hour to do 2 more things in that hour because you're just efficient. Yeah. And that's where that mindset comes in. Yep. And mindset's key. Just get into the mode where whether it works or whether it doesn't, I'll keep grinding till I find what does. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the point too. Like I think all those big power players out there would agree that just do it, because even with the ones that didn't work out, taught them everything they needed to be successful.
Oh yeah, so I would invest in someone that's a failed business, that has 5 failed businesses, compared to someone that's brand new in the field, because they know 5 times more information than that person knew. Yep. So take a failure and look at it as a win, because when you are constantly on a win streak, you don't learn anything because you're just doing and guessing. When you fail, you learn that was wrong, so you actually learn something. So. Yep.
And you got to find your way out, and solving problems is the way to figure out all that stuff too. But anyway, oh my gosh, we have all sorts of great insights we can pass along. But
I appreciate being on the show.
It was fun. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.